Welcome to the Intuitive Inc. radio show live with your host, Servet Hassan, with another inspiring author who can help you discover your true potential. Live on Clear Source Radio.
Hello, everybody. It is Sunday night. The name of the show is my name is Servet Hassan. The name of the show is Intuitive Inc., and we've got a great show for you tonight. You're going to find out how to be wealthy, so don't go away. I have on the line with me today Prema Lee Gurreri. I'm fired. Okay, we're going to try this again. Prema Lee Gurreri. We're recording, so you know. And she's written a book called Your Sacred Wealth Code, and she does know how to do this. She's been empowering leaders, entrepreneurs, visionaries, and change agents to take inspired action and unlock their own sacred wealth code, which then makes them wealthy, which doesn't always have to do with money. But anyway, we are going to be talking to her all about that. The subtitle is Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity, which kind of says it all. Welcome, Prema. Thank you so much for being on the show. We tried this once before and we had technical difficulties, and so you're back. Thank you so much.
Totally a pleasure to be here again. And, you know, sometimes when we get a lot of energy together, we just kind of blow the circuits a little bit. So I know we'll have a great show today.
I know we will, too. And I thank you so much. And for everybody out there, you cannot call in this time. And I know a lot of you wanted to, but we will be giving you information on how to contact Prema if you want to. But in the meantime, we're going to have a great conversation again that went in and out last time, and then we took it off the air because it just wasn't all there. So this time it's going to be all there, and maybe there's a reason for that. I think there are no accidents in life, so perhaps this time there will be more meat on the bones or something, or you'll hear something we didn't hear last time. And so it's an honor and pleasure. How many times we have to do this, we'll just keep doing it until we get it right, because it's worth it, actually. Prema, I read your book, and that's why I think it is. It's wonderful. You put the wealth code, you put this whole concept of abundance and connecting with that internally so well, I think anyone can understand it. I do.
Well, thank you. That was my intention, and the truth is that we all have a wealth code within us, and we can discover it, and that's what my book is about, or I can give it to you through a reading or whatever. But what you just said is it is within us. It's your internal design for wealth. And when you know it, and you learn to work with it, you find yourself really stepping into your power, really giving your highest value gifts to the world, doing what you love to do, and also experiencing wealth on your own terms, wealth in a way that makes sense to you, not what the world says is wealthy.
That's right, because when you tune into your authentic self, I think you don't even need the law of attraction or the law of, there's a million laws out there. It happens naturally because then you get into the flow, I think, and that's what I think you're teaching people here, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. Now, tell us what is your definition of the Sacred Wealth Code?
So I'll break it down two ways. First, my definition of wealth is everything you need to fulfill your purpose, everything that you need to acquire, whether that is, we just boil it down to money because that's our common currency of exchange, but it's not all about money by any means. So it's everything that you need, and that could include money, but it's your time, the freedom, the security, the self-expression, the service to others that you need to do what you have come here to do. And you also need to know what wealth is to you personally. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Right.
But your sacred wealth code is where purpose and prosperity, where that intersects within you and within your soul blueprint.
Right.
And I believe everyone can feel their soul blueprint, whether they can read it or not. And I help you do that. I help open the door and so that you can see and feel and have some confidence in that. But where your purpose planets in Vedic astrology, as I'm a Vedic astrologer as well, and your prosperity planets come together, this is where we find true wealth. And so that's why, I think most people have heard things like if you're on purpose, that's the right path, and, your wealth will follow. And some people have had the experience, well, I feel like I'm on purpose, and where's the wealth? And I've certainly had that in my past happen. But really, this is where your sacred wealth code lives. Now, your sacred wealth code happens to be really comprised of your highest value gifts. After doing this for so long with looking at other people's soul blueprints, and people always come to me like, where's the money? Where's the love?
Exactly.
What am I supposed to be
Right.
doing?
Yeah.
And having gone through my own dark night of the soul around this, what I realized and what I started to really see is we have a lot of divine gifts, but your highest value gifts, those are the ones that when you use those, when you step into those, when you give them to the world, they're gifts, they're meant to be given. You unlock something in the world that only you can unlock with that gift. And it's like a special key for that. And you're also valued. You get to experience that value. And you get to determine what that experience of value is. And I'm going to say that value is wealth, whether it's, fulfillment, satisfaction is always laced within it, but, it's always more than just money, what it really means to you.
Right. Okay. Let's backtrack a little bit because, you said you've gone through your own dark night of the soul, as have many of us. I certainly have more than once, let me tell you. So,
yeah.
Been there, done that. Now, I know you had 2 yoga studios and everything was going through the roof, and then suddenly it wasn't. And that's what turned you inward into finding your own higher purpose gifts and all of that. Is that how it started truly, that you went internal to find your own purpose and then connect it with your own prosperity, and that's where this all started from?
Well, I could say that it's always started from that internal place, but let me frame it just a little bit differently. And yes, I've been through more than one dark night of the soul, but let's talk about this one that you've brought up. So I'll make I'll make this story short and just go to the point that matters the most here. So back in 2002, and this was right before the Iraq War broke out, and I opened up a yoga center. And I was renting a space before and had a small studio, but this was a big, beautiful, brand new building and 2 studios, and this is a world-class center, a little ahead of its time, high overhead, but, really felt we could make it.
Right.
And it was a 6-figure in sales business, but not enough of that was coming to me personally to help me thrive on a financial level, but also I was spending my time and energy doing things in that business that weren't my highest value gifts. So that was draining my energy even more. Like I was running that business, even though I'm good at business, I was running all the administration of that business, and I had employees and teachers, and I was training teachers and doing my intuitive work and teaching classes. It's just too much for one woman to do. So I was doing things that I was good at, like the administration I'd been hired by other companies to do, but that was not my sweet spot. And I also, and I couldn't put it together because I was doing all the spiritual work on the back end, and I tried to sell that business. My landlord would not let me out of my lease, so I had to make it. I did everything I could to get a partner, and nothing worked out. And I kept being faced with, you've got to let this go. And this, I was 5 years into this center, and I felt incredibly vulnerable and exposed, and I really had hid it pretty well from my community. And I had to expose myself. I had to let everyone know that I wasn't making it, and I would have to close the center. And there was different things that happened along the way, but here's the key that relates to what you were asking me about. I really had to get down on my knees, and I was doing some soul searching because now I also lost my marriage during this time. So single mom, I didn't know what I was going to do to make ends meet and to pay back the debt I had accumulated.
Right.
And I just really thought that I had been on purpose. So how the heck could this happen to me? So really, I wasn't doing the soul searching about being on purpose as much as, which I was saying a little bit of that, of what was I doing wrong? Because I thought I had it. I thought this formula should have worked. I was doing what I love to do. But I was stuck in my shadow. I was stuck in the shadow of some of my Sacred Wealth Code archetypes. I was stuck in the shadow of using gifts that I'm just, things I'm just good at, as opposed to standing fully in my brilliance. We only have so much energetic currency in a day,
right?
In a lifetime. We have, infinite spiritual currency, but we do have limitations in the physical world. And if your energy equates to like $100 a day, like just let's say that's your energetic currency for the day, and you're using 50% to do the things that you don't really want to be doing, and you're using 20% to do what you love to do, and you are using another 20% to finance your past you already know about, and then there's all those fears you don't even know about, and then maybe you have to heal something and you want some creative energy. I mean, we're bankrupt, really easily.
Oh, right.
So I had to look at where I was energetically bankrupt. And when I let the center go, I just was on my knees and I vowed to stay there until I could figure this out. And what I figured out, I dove into, I'm an energy clearer. I dove into the Vedic astrology. What was the patterns? I found where I was blocked. And again, this was around being on what I now call, and shortly after that called, the shadow side of your Sacred Wealth Code. And one of the big things for me was that I was wired up around, I was programmed that I had to do it all alone, and that's where my value was. And I felt like I received value in the world if I was this independent, do it on your own. Well, I mean, I've lived on my own since I was a young teenager. That was my upbringing. I really had to make my way in the world. And those beliefs really jammed my circuits. I also, it didn't feel safe for me to ask for help. So these were just some of the places where I was in my shadow. So I had to do the work to clear that enough to really step back into really being in my divine gifts, in my Sacred Wealth Code. I was identified with that I was just good at, but not necessarily that was really bringing me what I wanted. So I hired a heart-centered business coach. I went back to work with my Vedic astrology mentor, as my spiritual mentor. I had an assistant, and I had to borrow money to do that. And I just vowed I had to have a team, and I went ahead and shifted my business around and got myself very, not only solvent, but really back in making, thriving again financially, but thriving on a wealth level, just even where I was living and the kind of life I created for myself.
Right, which for you, your basic need has always been freedom, right?
My freedom is the driver. We all have a driver.
We all have a
underneath
driver.
Why we want wealth. And freedom, for me, freedom and peace is really underneath, like, why do I even want wealth? And that's the first pillar in the book, Sacred Wealth Code.
Yeah, that's what I was leading to, was the first pillar. But before because that's the big why. But before we get there, I wanted to talk just a little bit, because the highest value gifts is where people get stuck, I think. Because they immediately go to, well, I love that and I'm good, more than good at that, but could I make a living at that? That fear comes in. So what do you tell people when they can't wrap their head around how they're going to make money being an artist or a painter?
So what I do is I bring them into their heart so they can listen to the wisdom of their heart. And I teach this process in my Sacred Wealth Code book as well as in all my programs, so that they can hear their own truth about that, and they can also hear what the big fear is for them, that is the block, the shadow that's keeping them in that belief system that's not serving them, that's keeping them miserable doing something they don't really want to do, instead of fully stepping in to, like, for instance, let's just use the artist, which is one of the archetypes in the Sacred Wealth Code system. And so, if I say starving artist, that's another archetype not in my system, but in the shadow side. And Everyone has probably heard that. I know people who have been told. I have a couple of clients in particular. Tina was told this, and my client Julie was told this, that, oh, well, you can't make a living with, doing art, so they went and studied business or something else and were miserable and later are trying to reclaim themselves, and luckily we're working together, and they are mixing their art and business together.
Right.
But, that's just a simple example. It happens across the board.
Well, it does. And, I brought up the artist archetype because I thought that's what I would be. When there are 23 archetypes in the book, which is really interesting because it gets you to really see who and what you really are. Because I would think I would have been the mystic or the artist. And actually, I'm the communicator. And we all have more than one archetype, but that one made my heart sing. Do you know what I mean? That one made me go, oh, yeah. That's me.
Okay, and I love that you shared that. And the way she did that is that if you go to sacredwealthcode.com, you can take a free quiz that'll give you one of your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes and a beautiful printout about it and some training. Right. But what's so beautiful about that is that because of the questions that I ask you through the Sacred Wealth Code and the way that it's a personal journey you go on, then when you read the communicator, or when you were given the communicator, you were like, oh, that's me.
Right.
Like, and it's like, it's a resonant truth. It's like, when you hear a string plucked on a perfectly tuned instrument, you can hear the resonance. Well, when, your archetypes, your gifts are resonant to you, and they're not where you're going, well, am I that, am I not that? No, they're like, oh, boom, it hits you, and sometimes it surprises you.
Oh, yeah, it did surprise me because there were a few, and I thought, oh, that's me. That's one. I kept reading, and I was like, okay, that's not me. This is, and then I thought I can't be all of them, because, well, I'm not, because I'm not the, organizer or the, I'm very, high level creative nuts. Kind of, you know what I mean? Okay. I don't know how else to put that, but it's true. So, this is why I liked the book, because then it gets you to see, one, your shadow side, because I know I can be a perfectionist, which is just a way to procrastinate, basically, which I know already. But then when I saw it on the shadow side, I was like, okay, I can work through this a little bit more. I can do a little bit more there, which is what I loved. Now, the other thing I liked is you do pillars, because you mentioned pillar. That's the first pillar, and people won't know. There are 4 pillars, right, in the book? Yep. And pillar 1 I liked the most because really it is the big why. And that's where people get stuck too. Where's the money? Where's the love? Are the 2 questions I hear the most. And then the third one is, well, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what my highest value gifts are. And I think if you ask the big why, you get the answers to that. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that first pillar, so first, before we do that, I help you to understand what your wealth dream is, because you need to know really what you want, not what you think you want, but what your soul, your heart wants for you. And then we dig into why you want that, and that is harnessing your soul's big why. When you know why you want the wealth, everything has a purpose, and your purpose is either aligned or not. And when we know everyone write this down, why equals purpose. Purpose equals why. When you have the why, that you're going to why are you going to the store? Well, I've got this list. I'm just going to go meander around and see what I want for lunch. I mean, we always have a purpose, right?
Right.
And it depends on how aligned it is on what our result is going to be. Well, why you want the wealth, that first pillar of wealth, is very important, because that is the vehicle that will get you to that intersection of purpose and prosperity where your Sacred Wealth Code actually lives. And it's when you have that, it's like you've got a vehicle that will get you there. You have purpose will always pull you forward. But if you don't know why you want something or why you're doing something, you will flounder around.
That's right. You really have to connect into that. And I think that leads to pillar 2, which is your passion. Because if you're not passionate about it, then it's not your why. Why equals purpose, but purpose equals passion, right?
Well, purpose, think of it this way, is that purpose is the fuel. I'm sorry, passion is the fuel that will move your purpose
Forward. Yeah, that's a better way.
Inspired and passionate. And now we can say passionate about creating wealth, passionate about what you're doing, yes. But I teach that I want you to connect with your passion, and I call this the essence of fulfillment, on a daily basis, whether that's directly connected or not, because it is. You've got, in the energetic currency I talked about, you've got to be dialed up so you've got as much energy as possible. Your inspiration is up. You are passionate about even living today. So, my thing is, hiking with my dog down through the mountains, that I live at, and down to the beach. I love dance. I love yoga. I've got to be in nature. I need to plant my garden. I need to have deep conversation with people. I love to gaze at the cosmos. So, I do the things on a daily basis that I'm passionate about. Now, I'm passionate about my work, too, but I've got to have that fuel, so I'm inspired to actually work with my purpose and get to that intersection of where my high-value gifts are and actually use them. I've got to have the energy, and passion gives us that.
Well, give me an example of how you know what your highest value gift is as opposed to what you're good at. Like, I'm a writer. I can't, if you told me I couldn't write anymore, it would be like saying you can't breathe, I would.
Okay. So, we do know that you're, because, you've read the book, you've gone through the process.
Right, I've done it.
You do know one of your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes, although I am going to do your reading for you here. But one of your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes is absolutely the communicator. Now, the communicator has a lot of different gifts, and writing is absolutely one of them. Now, the fact that you know that, hey, I couldn't live a day without doing that gift, that's huge. Now, there's a lot of you listening in who have gifts like that may be dormant, meaning that you would love to be doing that, but you haven't given yourself the time, the space, or the belief that you can, or your life has been busy with other things, or you've just got some shadow in the way. It's a high-value gift when in the third pillar, which is your high-value gifts, wielding your superpowers. I take you through some process there and to really connect with at least one of your high-value gifts. And I take you through a couple of processes to really tune into, what is it that you do love to do? What is it maybe in your childhood that you were really attracted to and you either still do or you wish you could? And in this process, we kind of go back, and it's always amazing what comes up. Like, for instance, when I was doing this process and putting the book together, and of course in the book was capturing things I've just naturally been doing myself and with clients, I went back to the fact that when I was 18, I wanted to go to this particular school that trained animals for work in the movies and TV, but they did it in a really beautiful way. And I grew up with horses, and I'm an animal lover, and I just am kind of a natural animal whisperer, always have been. That's one of my gifts. And I took for granted the fact that I always have animals, and I just use that, but I let go of that because that school actually closed, and I never went there. So that's a gift that I have that I didn't focus my business or my career on that, but I've always had animals in my life. But I kind of forgot that, I am really gifted in that way. And so I've really turned that also into being a human whisperer. So so there's lots, going back to look at the things that maybe you left by the wayside, and maybe you're doing and you're not even aware you're doing, the things that you would love to do. And I love what you said, the things that you really couldn't live without doing, or here's even another take on that, the things that if you're really honest with yourself that are killing you because you're not doing them.
Right. No, stop right there, because also in this book, and we're talking to Prema Lee Gurreri about her book, Discover Your Sacred Wealth Code. And one of the things I love about the book is it really makes you start to question these things that she's been talking about, to the point where, you suddenly go, oh my goodness. And you give great exercises in the book as well, are in there. And one of the things I loved about is many of the exercises start out with you saying to yourself, if I were really honest with myself, and then the question. And that, I like that because,
and the actual phrase, and this is what I call the back door to the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone writes this down. It's in the book, but if you write this down and you say this to yourself once a day, you'll be surprised what comes up. You'll start living what my dad calls really squeaky clean with yourself. If I tell myself the truth, and then you can preface. So that's one thing like everyone listening in could do right now.
Right.
If I tell myself the truth, what's one of my high-value gifts, one of my high-value gifts I'm not using right now or not using as fully as I could?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you're talking to yourself. You can step aside that if it kind of lets your brain, your mind step aside from what your parents told you should be good at or what your friends told you or some teacher somewhere somehow. You let all that go. And then suddenly if I tell myself the truth, it's a different story. And because, and one of the things, because we talked about figure out the big why, just going back a little bit here, but it really, like yours is freedom and peace. And I always thought mine was freedom and peace, but it wasn't. It was security and peace. And freedom, but it was security because I ran away at such a young age. I was 14 and I've always had this, is there enough? Will there be enough? Will I always have enough? I've been taking care of myself for a long time. So it gets you to that place where you have to face these things. And that's what your sacred wealth code is all about, because if you don't open up to these things, you can't, intersect purpose with prosperity.
Because, everyone is, really has their own divine design, and that's inside. And I'm all about, one of my main purposes is myself and teaching others to live from the inside out. Really trust yourself and trust yourself to do what you love to do, and that you'll actually have the wealth, create the life that you desire.
Right.
But this living from the inside out, asking these deep questions, and that you found out that, it's security for me. These are really important things. You're not supposed to, it's not supposed to be one way or the other for you, but because of all the cultural conditioning that we're subjected to, unconsciously we've got all these beliefs. And really, your truth and what's right for you, and I take a big stand for this because I believe you already know. You might need help opening the door, and I'm a door opener. Mm-hmm. You might need a guide to help you to get to those answers, but they're within you. And when you really hone in and tell yourself the truth, the beautiful thing is if somebody else tells you your truth, you might go, yeah, you're right. But that's why I ask important questions. When I pull that through you and you tell yourself the truth, it is very hard for you to deny that and not work, not step into that. You have to live with that. And a lot of times the transformation just happens in you telling yourself the truth to empower you to live it.
Well, yes, absolutely. I so agree with that. So well put. Also, I have to tell you something. After I read the book, I was going to do something. First of all, I did a workshop called Reinventing Yourself from the Inside Out. So yes, it's important inside out. Here we were talking about that. But I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I said to myself, if I tell myself the truth, do I really want to do that? And the answer was no. So I used it for other things besides what's in the book. And I said, that's something I'm going to remember, for a long time. I'm going to ask myself if I tell myself the truth, because it really does take you outside of anybody else and our environment and our baggage and all these other conditioning things that we've been through. And it's just about you being you then. I really like that.
Yeah, it really slips in the back door, and it's great because oh gosh, it's lickety split. You're just there.
Yeah, it is, and that's amazing that you found that. And I'm sure it's because at some point you had to tell yourself the truth.
A lot. I've had to tell myself the truth a lot.
Yeah.
Or I had the truth banging on my door.
Yeah, exactly, because that'll happen eventually if you don't do it. The universe is infinitely patient. So if you don't get it once, it'll just keep giving you the lesson until you do. But one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, backtracking a little bit, is you mentioned the word sweet spot a lot in the book, and you did today on the interview here. And tell me what you mean by that, because that was really important to me. So finding your sweet spot.
Your sweet spot, and the reason I like that term is because in saying that, most people can connect in with, oh, that must be a good place, right? My sweet spot.
It is.
And it is that place where you're not, where you are naturally. It's where you're in your gifts. There's a natural sense about it. There's an ease and grace. You're on. You feel on purpose. And this is also where you're in alignment, not only with, the truth of who you are, with your divine design for wealth, for happiness, for prosperity, but you're also in alignment with the expression of that and with the world.
Right.
So it's a place of alignment, a resonance,
Exactly, and when you get into that alignment and that resonance, because really manifestation all comes down to being aligned. It's being aligned in vision and in your actions and your feelings. And when you can do that, anything can happen. Even Gandhi said that, because his wife, after he had passed on, somebody asked Mrs. Gandhi how things just worked for him. And she said it was because what he envisioned was always in tune with his actions and his feelings. And then that brings us down to, and we do this a lot in the book and through all my programs, this inspired action, that action where you're taking the action that you're being called to from the inside out. And there's questions we ask for that, just like the back door of the soul, telling yourself the truth, And the question is, what's one inspired action I can take that'll support me in maybe expressing my gifts, or finding out what one of my gifts are, or, using my gift to create more prosperity for myself. These inspired actions, they come from the soul. And we're getting them all the time, and some you take naturally, and some you just put in a box and you never take, or they go on a list somewhere. But when you take them, you not only really exercise your trust muscle and trust yourself even more, but you start to see creation happen for you in the way that you want to. So when you take those inspired actions, one of the things that gets us in the way is that it doesn't always make sense to the mind, So you might maybe you're going to be using your gift as this great merchant that you are, and you're really because of that, you're really great at creating. Maybe you're great at networking and sales and creating deals, and you get an inspired action. Maybe you're asking about how do I use these abilities in creating this particular deal, or maybe this funnel. I'm kind of talking to the business people, and you get an inspired action that says, oh, I should go to that yoga class today, or take that walk. And your head goes, well, forget about that. That's not going to help me with the deal, and you don't do it. But if you go to the walk or the yoga class, another inspiration drops in, or you meet the person you need to meet, or you pick up this piece of information you needed. You don't know. And when you take those inspired actions, you see, you can drive across the country in the dark, in the fog, only seeing 5 to 10 feet in front of you. You can drive slow. You're not going to see a lot, but you can get there just being really present and seeing what's right in front of you. Well, that's actually how most life is. And if you'll stay present right there, have your bigger vision, you will always be given the next step. Always be given the next step. Oh, I so agree with that. I really do agree with that. Let's talk. We're running out of time. We're going to run out of time here really fast. Prema, I could talk to you for days.
We have a lot to talk about, my dear.
So I want the listeners out there to get the most out of this. I do want to talk about, again, to people out there, it's called Discover Your Sacred Wealth Code. And we're on the line with Prema Lee Gurreri, and you can find out all about her and her book at sacredwealthcode.com. So go there, and you like she said, you can take a test there to see what archetypes you are. So let's talk about that before we run out of time, is the archetypes, and then the good side and the shadow side, because that's equally as important, you know?
It's equally as important. So after working with people and, discovering my high value gifts and stepping into them more and helping other people discover theirs and helping them step into them through inspired action and clearing their blocks and barriers, the archetypes showed up. I mean, literally all this work has been, just came through me.
Right.
And the archetypes did too, and I was grateful when they showed up because they put their soul language, so archetypes are soul language, archetypal language. Mm-hmm. They affect each and every one of us in our own unique way, our own unique relationship. They're timeless, and they all embody the gifts and the shadow side of, of a particular energy. The Sacred Wealth Code archetypes on a logistical level, they came in with 3 for each of the 7 planets, and then 1 for the north and 1 for the south node of the moon. And they are rich and beautiful and amazing, and they're Sacred Wealth Code cards as well that are all hand-painted paintings. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing about the archetypes,
yeah, they are beautiful. The cards are beautiful. I'm sorry, I just had to say that.
Yeah, they are. They're right in front of me here. And in fact, and I had, and I'll do this often. As we started this interview, I had just picked through the deck, just whatever popped out, 4 archetypes for us, which were the messenger, the strategist, the connector, and the communicator. And even as fast as I just said those names, a story just opened up for each one of you.
Wow.
About because we have these are living archetypes. Now, what makes these different about other archetypes you might connect with is these are centered around your Sacred Wealth Code, around your purpose and prosperity, around your high value gifts. So, like I was just talking about, we were talking about the communicator in relationship to you, and each one of the archetypes, there's a few descriptor words: truthful, outspoken, flexible, clear, quick, relatable. There's a few more. Mm-hmm. Each of the archetypes has a mantra. For the communicator, it's words have power. Mm-hmm. They each have soul desire. For the communicator, it's to be a channel for clarity and growth. Each has a purpose: to speak the truth and illuminate clarity and understanding for the positive growth of humanity. And each has a shadow side: overwhelmed, sarcastic, blunt, and pessimistic. And all has high-value gifts. And there's more, but some of communicators are clarity, mindfulness, writing, discriminating, deep listener. And they all have an inspired action plan, and this one's is I am committed to practicing presence and mindfulness so I can continue to grow and dedicate my high-value gifts to serve the growth and evolution of humanity. And there's a few paragraphs written for both about the positive aspects and the shadow side, and ways that if you're a great communicator, ways that you might show up in the practical world, maybe even in the career world, and some of the ways you can use these gifts. Now, the beautiful thing is that the way they came through, and when I sat down to really write them, or they wrote themselves, you can read them one time and you're going to notice one thing. You can read another time and something else pops out at you. So you have all these archetypes within you, but the ones there are usually 3 to 5 that really are your Sacred Wealth Code, where your purpose and prosperity come together. In a reading, I look at that, I see it in your chart, I give you your archetypes and your unique identifiers and tell you which ones hold hands with which ones. And through the book is a self-guided journey where, as you learn about what wealth is for you, and you go through the 4 pillars, and then you're in a position to go through the archetypes and really be honest with yourself on which ones have your high-value gifts. So the system works both ways. And the cards, they're just so great to have. Like, you have them all within you, so you can use them as daily guidance.
Right.
You could use them also as, oh, geez, I've got to go up and give a talk today. Maybe I need to pick the communicator and really learn about it today, or the leader, and embody that energy. So there's lots of ways to play with them, but your Sacred Wealth Code is, in the archetypes, is always infinitely interesting. Like in my programs, I have trainings about each of the archetypes, and I use the system myself. In fact, I created a journal that's in print right now, and it'll be released probably November, which gives a daily practice to tune into your heart and find out what your heart's desire is, and tell yourself the truth, and get inspired to action, and then to connect with the archetypes that are going to support you, and some other Wealth Code archetype practices as well.
It's beautiful, and the cards are beautiful. And then when you tap in, you'll know when you start. That's why I so recommend this book, because if you really delve in and really be honest, you will come away with what you need to be doing. And as we said earlier, wealth isn't necessarily about money. So, and if you're in that flow, the money comes anyway. So I love that, and I love the archetypes and the way you describe them and how to tap into them, and also the shadow side. And I want to talk about that too a little bit more, because we didn't touch on Pillar 4, which is your greatest challenges. They can be, the unexpected can be your gateway to wealth.
Yeah, the unexpected gateway to wealth, because here's the deal. Everywhere you're locked up in your shadow. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, one of my clients who was a nurse and an artist, and she came to me to really step more into her work as an artist and as a teacher, which was in her Sacred Wealth Code as well. And she had created a system of using color that was very therapeutic, and she wanted to support caregivers in using that system and teaching that. And she was doing that successfully for free. But she was also a very gifted painter, and she wanted to sell her paintings, and she wanted to be teaching this in classes and step out of nursing so much and more into the artist. But she has also in her Sacred Wealth Code, she has the Great Nurturer, and she was stuck in overgiving on the shadow side. So when we dug underneath that, there's always a belief that doesn't sound very sexy, I'm sorry to say, but
right.
these unconscious beliefs don't. The value of the belief was that's how she got love, that's how she got attention, or she believed on a subconscious level she had to overgive. But that overgiving left her worn out and led her to being a martyr at times. So when we identified and cleared those patterns, and she stepped out of the overgiving of the Great Nurturer, she was able to step into the other side, the gift side, because, in fact, I teach a process called Stepping Out of the Shadows into the Light, and she became very attractive to others, where she wasn't so much before. They were, it felt like she had to give a lot to get a little, and then all of a sudden, because the Great Nurturer has a great capacity to give people just what they need in order to grow, when she got aligned with that, she found she was very attractive. People started buying her paintings. In fact, I just heard from her recently, and she was telling me how successful, her painting career has become. She never expected it. And also, she's been able to teach these workshops and really thrive as an artist and a teacher.
Right. See, there you go. So, and also, that's a shadow side. It's true. We all have that and need to work through that. But part of this too is about things happening to us that we think might be taking us down, but that we can find the gift in and then use that to propel us even further into our purpose and passion and therefore our prosperity, right?
Yes, because everything you go through is good for something, and we just need to find out what it's good for. And eventually, and this is what I teach all my clients, is want you to get to the place where when you see a challenge coming or you're in a challenge, you're looking at it as if you're looking at that thing that happened 5-10 years ago, and you can now see the blessing, and you all have that. Look back at something that happened years ago, and and you can see the blessing in it. Well, the things that are coming at you now, that you can start to lean in and going, okay, I know there's a gift in that for me.
Right.
Let me lean in and find out what's the work that I need to do. Where do I need to, clean up and clear out, or where do I just need to hold steady so that I can get that gift instead of resisting, pushing against, collapsing, and all the things we do when we are faced with a shadow or with a challenge. Because everywhere you have, you're stuck in the shadow, then there's a gift that's locked up behind a closed door there. And when we open that door, that gift is released.
Absolutely. And I know this better than most. I've done a lot of things. First of all, I have to tell you that on my desk, I'm looking at a big, huge rock that says, words are the voice of the heart. So I guess I am the communicator. So I loved that. I got goosebumps when you said that. But anyway, my listeners know that I'm a cancer survivor, that last year I was diagnosed with a very rare form of ovarian cancer. And I'm still here, people. So,
I'm so grateful you are.
I have hair on my head now too, which is great. But I have to tell you, it took my career, my everything in a very different direction, because starting this fall, I wasn't going to write a book about cancer, but I am. But it's called If Life is a Cosmic Comedy, What Am I Still Doing Here? And how I kicked cancer's ass and found my mojo. But that, I would never have done that otherwise. I would never go there. And now it's all about, let me save women's lives. If I save one life, I'm going to be the happiest woman on earth, before I go anywhere. And that could be a year from now, or that could be 30 years from now. Well, I'm 60, so it could be 30 years. I don't know. You don't know. But I have to say that that's where part of our wealth will come from, is these challenges. It's, and
it's so true, and we don't know why. There's what I call there's different kinds of challenges, and different kinds of soul challenges. And this particular soul challenge that you have faced are one of the ones that I call unexplainable soul challenges. And there are unexplainable ones that just, bring us to our knees and bring us to tears, that are happening in the world today and happening to people we know and don't know.
Right.
But, because you're willing to go through, you're also seeing, you're being used as an instrument for the collective in some way, with something that people need to hear, and you're teaching about that, and your book is going to awaken people and help heal people. And it's not something you would have signed up for, but this is, this is how your gift is wanting to be shown through you.
Right. And it's brought the big why up in many, many ways, and the passion and everything else. So you know what? Go with it, run with it, because I think that's, I'm just going in the flow. It's actually something, Prema, really honestly, it's something I couldn't not do. It's something I'm going to do no matter what, period, the end,
Well, I think, unfortunately, when we are, it doesn't always take being faced with the possible end by any means, and I don't think you were living your life that way.
No.
But sometimes those wake-up calls come, and like when you're faced with, I haven't gone through cancer, God bless you. I've been close to people who have, but, it's like, what else? It's like, what else do I have to lose? Like, I mean, why?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you? So let's all take the blessings that that Servette's been given and is going through. Let's take it as a blessing for us. Like, we don't have any time to waste. It's such a fine line. We're even here. Like, we don't have any time to waste.
Right.
We need to get on with loving ourselves, owning our gifts, loving each other up, and giving it.
Right, because even though I was faced with it, you could walk across the street tomorrow and get hit by a truck, and then what? So you just don't know. And I want to awaken people to that more. And I never got angry or depressed or sad or anything. Where I went was, what am I supposed to learn from this? How can I grow? How can I raise my consciousness even higher because of this? So that's where I went, because there's nothing you can do about it anyway. Once you got it, you know. But you can you can stay in the present moment and go from there. Just stay there, you know.
And in the present, and that's why I teach a lot of the practices I do and you do, it's just in the present, everything is revealed to us.
Right.
We're you know, it's all there. It's all here for us, right here.
Right here, right now. Right here, right now. Yeah. That's right. I could do this for, like I said, days. But this has been awesome. Are you working on another book?
I am finishing up I just finished the journal. So the journal's coming into print. And I am not currently working on another book. In the last year and a half, I've put out this whole trilogy.
Right.
And so there are at least 3 more books that I know of in me. Including something on our relationship code. I've done a lot of work on masculine and feminine energy and relationships, and so I'm sure that will be birthed at some point. I have promised this body of work that I will get. See, it's important, and I teach this in my business academy. I teach this to my Sacred Wealth Circle and my private clients. It's important that you also learn to energetically stand behind yourself. So that you can actually give your gifts. It's one of the things it takes for us to give our gifts. We have to, yes, it's wonderful to get recognition from the world, but if we're only looking for that, we probably won't stand 100% in our gifts. We have to learn to do that first and really get behind ourselves no matter what is coming at us, and then the world will recognize us. So I'm also doing that with this particular body of work, and that's why we're talking today, as I'm really standing behind it, because I really want this to be a big wave that touches people, because there's lots of ways you can touch into this, for free or very inexpensively, or you can work really deeply with it, so that as many people as possible I can help get in touch with their gifts. And I really envision a world where we're all using our high-value gifts, and where you're willing to step out of the ones that aren't yours. Like I was in the administrator, which I have a strong administrator in me, but it'll work me to death. It's not my highest value gifts. Well, so that's the high-value gifts of someone else. Like my assistant, that's one of her high-value, archetypes. So we can be in a world where we're all gifting each other, and we don't all have to do the same thing, and we all don't have to do everything.
Right.
And then we'll really have energy for what we're here to do.
Right, exactly. I love the book. I love you. It's wonderful. I'm going to spell your name for people, too. It's Prema. It's Prema, Lee, Lee, and it's Gurreri, Gurreri. The name of the book is Discover Your Sacred Wealth Code, or Your Sacred Wealth Code, and you can find it at sacredwealthcode.com, right? Or on Amazon or anywhere else.
Or you can grab it on Amazon, and it is in bookstores too, because it's with plenty of distributors. But and if you go to the website, and the cards are there too. Even if you go to Amazon first, come back to the website. You'll be able to put your email in and get some free gifts that go along with it.
Right, and I highly recommend that. Do it just to find out what archetype you are. Even it's great. And the subtitle was Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity. And your soul does have a blueprint. We can't talk anymore about that because we're wrapping up here and the show's over in about 2 seconds here. So, but if you get in there and do the exercises and do the work and stick with that one phrase that we talked about earlier, if I tell myself the truth, ... and then go into the exercises, you can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong. I highly recommend this, Prema. You've been a wonderful delight. Thank you so much for doing this again for the second time. And I want you back. The journal, is the journal available too already, or is it just about to come out?
No, November. It'll be available in November.
Okay, I wanted people to know that too, because I think that will be really spectacular, because it will really dig into doing the work, because you have to do the work. Yeah, you have to do the work.
Only you can do the work. And
right.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for doing all you're doing and being in the world.
Thank you, Prema. And we will have you back on with a new book or a new journal or a new something soon, I'm sure. Thank you so much, and you take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What a great show, guys. That was Prema Lee Gurreri. Once again, the name of the book is Your Sacred Wealth Code, Unlock Your Soul Okay, now we're done. Your Sacred Wealth Code, Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity. And if you read it, it will. Trust me, it will. The cards are also beautiful too. And thank you for joining me tonight. It's a pre-recorded show because it blew up the last time and halfway through, and so we had technical difficulties. And hopefully that won't happen again, and hopefully next time you listen in I'll be able to talk properly and actually enunciate the words. I just got so into this though that I just forgot I forget I'm on the air, and sometimes I'm just talking like I normally talk, which is great. And anyway, you can find me at ServetteHassan.com. It's ServetteHassan.com. You can email me there too, Servette@ServetteHassan.com. And as I was touching on during the show here, in the fall we're coming out with a bunch of a brand new website, new book, a new website that will connect to my other website about kicking cancer, and also a Facebook fan page with that. It's all about empowering women and raising cancer consciousness, and that's where I'm going and what I'll be doing, but I'll still be doing the show, and we'll still be talking about all of those things because that's what makes everybody beautiful. Be you to the full. That is what makes you truly beautiful. And we're going to keep talking about that till you can do it. Touching into your true, authentic self, which then will bring you everything and anything your heart desires. Thank you for joining me tonight, and stay tuned for another great show live next Sunday. Take care and God bless.